in this chapter or in this book. And Lord willing, we're going to finish up today the book of Ecclesiastes. I want to go back and again I want to read chapter 1 and verse 3. Chapter 1 and verse 3 is the beginning of the book of Ecclesiastes. And when you look at the book of Ecclesiastes, you look at Solomon going through a quest of life. And it kind of like when a person's born, okay, we all were born. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 3 is the birth. And this is what it said. Somebody read that if you would. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 3.
What profit has a man from all of his labor in which he toils under the sun?
Solomon is beginning a quest to see what makes man happy. That's what the book of Ecclesiastes is about. What's going to make me happy in this life? And in essence, every human being that's ever lived, and every human being that will continue to live in this life is on a quest. You're on a quest. What's a quest mean?
Journey.
It's a journey. Every person from the time they're born to the day that they die are on a journey. And every one of us, and listen to what I'm saying, please. Every person in life, from the time that they're born to the time that they die, they are looking at what's going to make them happy. You are. You're on a journey. I'm on a journey. Every person that's ever lived is on a journey. And you're going to decide in your life what makes me happy. What makes me happy? You make that decision. I can't make it for you. Jason and Brenda cannot make it for their children. Lori cannot make it for their children. Rod can't make it for his. I can't make it for mine. Every person makes their own decision as to what's going to make them happy. That's what Solomon is seeking to do. As we went through the book, he saw a lot of vanity in life. There's a lot of vain things in life that people do. There's a lot of vain things in life that I've done when I was young. And I guarantee you, every person in here over 40 years old has done some, and I'm going to put it pretty clear, stupid things in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Everybody has done dumb things in your life. And we'll continue to make mistakes until we die. Mm-hmm. But those dumb mistakes are my fault. Because I made those decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll make those decisions till the day that I die. So Solomon made decisions in his life. And the Bible says in the book that Solomon wrote, or in the book of Kings, when Solomon took the throne of his father David, the Bible says that Solomon made bad decisions in his life. He had wisdom, he had understanding, he had money, he had women, he had alcohol, he had properties, he had food, he had things that you and I'll never have. But the Bible says he made a decision to take women, and those women led his heart away from God. That happens. And the point is every person in here needs to make a decision about who I choose to be my friend. You and I need to be very careful about the people. This goes for young people especially. You need to be very careful who you choose to be your friend. Because as Solomon was taken away from God, young people can be taken away from God as well and do things that young people will regret the rest of their life, as many of us have done. So you're on a journey, I'm on a journey. And you're going to make decisions about your life. If you follow God, you'll make good decisions. I want to tell you something. if you, and listen to what I'm saying, you're talking to an older guy, not old, Chase, but an older guy that's been where you've been. If you put, listen very carefully, if you put God in your life, and He is the most important thing in your life, you won't have to go through the difficulties and the trials of life that a lot of people go through. But that's your choice. And if I choose not to put God in my life, that's for all of us, and I make dumb mistakes and bad mistakes in my life, who do I have to blame? Owen? Lizzie?
Yourself.
Myself. I can't blame anybody else. If I make dumb and bad decisions, I can't blame nobody else. I can blame me because I'm the one that made those decisions. Okay? So the point is, we are on a journey in life. We are journeying every day. And let me tell you something. Jason knows this because of his age. Your journey is going to go real quick. Is that right, Dick? Your journey is going to go real quick. You may not think so. You may not think so. It's hard. It is so hard for Will to believe that at 14 years old. So hard. At 14 years old, you think, man, I'm going to never reach 16 where I can drive. But you will. And then you get 16, 26, and 46, and 66. It goes by so fast. Your journey is very quick. And you'll understand that one day. We all will. As we get, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Solomon says, let's begin in verse 1 of chapter 12. And I would encourage you to read back in chapter 11, verses 7 through verse 10. And Solomon deals with youth. And Solomon says, young people, he says, remember God in your youth, while the evil days come not, and the years don't draw near, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. That's what he says. Remember God when you're young. And we're going to find out in chapter 12 why God says, remember me when you're young. There's a reason why. Put God in your life when you're young. Because there's going to come a time when things are going to change. Things are going to change. Because Lee, believe it or not, was Will's age one time. How old are you, Lee? 51. Now, that's not too old for me. But Lee was 14 years old one time, weren't you, Lee? Hard for people to understand that. But Solomon says, let's look at verse 1. Somebody read verse 1.
Remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them.
Well, I want to examine these verses, and let's break verse 1 down a little bit. Remember now, young people, your Creator in the days of your youth. I want to ask a question. And young people, if you want to answer this question, you can, but everybody can answer this question if you want to bring some thoughts up. Why does God say, remember Him in your youth? Why? Why does He say, young people, remember God when you're young? Why do you think He says that?
Hey, your brain is like a sponge when you're young, and all of us need it. Even though it's been so long ago, we still think about school, those 12 years of school not being too long, and we learned a lot then.
Yeah.
And you just, it's a new time for learning things, remembering things, and you carry it the rest of your life. And if you don't have that basis when you're young, you're probably not going to think about it when you get older. If somebody tells you about it, you go, I'm fine without it.
Yeah. So one is you remember God, you can remember things, your brain's fresh. When you get old, it kind of, you know, dries up a little bit. I'm speaking for myself. Shambo.
You can make some of the biggest mistakes of your life in your youth.
Okay.
Affect the rest of your life.
You can make some bad decisions when you're young. Okay? I'm gonna say, I don't mean this in a bad way. Scientists say, or doctors say, or whoever, I'm gonna get you, brother, whoever it might be, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but I believe this is scientifically correct, and the age may vary just a little. Scientists say that your brain is not fully developed till you're about 20 or a little later. Y'all looking at me like,
30,
is that true?
30.
Okay, sorry, I told you I'm on side, but I've heard that. So, Landon, Micah, Will, Anna, and whoever else is below 25, your brain is not fully developed. That's not saying, and that's it, that's you too, Lizzie. Your brain's not fully developed. So that simply means, what? What does that mean? Does that mean you're dumb, you're stupid? Is that what that means? What does it mean? What does it mean?
Don't make good decisions yet.
You don't make good decisions, okay? So if I don't make good decisions, and let me tell you something, people that are 50 don't make good decisions, right? 60, 70, 80, they don't make good decisions. But the point is that young people make bad decisions, typically more so than who? Older people, more mature. Why is a young person more apt to why is a 15-year-old young person more apt to make a bad decision than a 50-year-old person?
Because the 50-year-old's already learned most of the lessons that the 15-year-old's about to learn.
Yeah, the 15-year-old has no experience in life. And I know when I was 15 years old, and you parents helped me out a little bit, when I was 15 years old, I thought I knew everything. Now, Kimmy's laughing. Is that right, Kimmy? When you was 15, you thought you was pretty smart. Well, I mean, you think, I look back at my parents, which are both passed away, and I look at them and I remember, you know, them saying, well, you can't do this, or you can't do this, or you can do this, or whatever. And I looked, and I thought, you ain't hip. You know what that means, Matthew? Yeah. Okay. You ain't hip. You ain't up to date on the new generation. You just an old fogey. You don't know what us young people like and what us young people want. What's wrong with that thinking? Come on, older people, help me out. What's wrong with that thinking?
You're gonna make some bad mistakes by not listening to somebody that's older.
Yeah.
A lot of young people don't realize the consequences that can come from, that can affect the rest of their life.
Yes. And what have we said? One mistake. And listen, young, one mistake that you make in your life can ruin you the rest of your life.
And you know, Rod mentions that a lot in
Yes.
lessons. Don't be doing stupid stuff when you're younger, because you'll be in prison the rest of your life.
Yeah. Or a prison,
dead.
or, you know, you may do things in your life that you'll wish and you'll remember them when you're 70, 80 years old. Because of stupid things there's things that I've done in my life when I was a teenager that dumb stuff, stupid stuff, that I still remember today at 70 years old, and I wish a billion times I'd have never done some of the dumb things that I did. Can you raise your hand on that, anybody? Yeah. But, and these young people may be thinking, I'm not judging you, but these young people may think, well, hey, you're that old and you made it through life. Look at you. You look pretty, pretty smart, and you're looking all right. That's not true for everybody. The graveyard is full of people who make bad mistakes, and they don't make it. There's people in prison who make bad mistakes, like Jason said. Brother Gary, go ahead.
I think Solomon, being the writer here, being very wise, is kind of giving the young people, he says, know your Creator, know God in your youth, because you're going to need it. And if you get older, there's a lot of people that don't get older, but if you get older and you think back of the things of God that you learned when you were young, like Landon's age over there, that when you get to the age of when things get difficult in your life and you're stressed and you don't know what to do, then you can think about those things and meditate upon the things that you know God of. And He will help you through all things, He will.
Yeah. Who is better as a friend? God or a human being that makes mistakes and God who doesn't make mistakes? God not gonna make mistakes. If you follow what God says, your life's gonna be a whole lot easier. So we mentioned a couple of things. It'll keep us out of trouble for we mean God in use. There's things, that'll help me by remembering God. Anybody got anything else that remembering God does for us in our youth?
Well, if you taught to respect God when you're younger, it'll affect your decision of, like, because we willfully sin. If I do this, it's going to hurt God. Better not do it.
Yeah.
If you don't have that reasoning, you're going to do whatever.
What is a good, and I got two questions. What's a good thing to do, young people? What is a good thing to do when you, at school, I'm going to pick these four, and I'm not picking on Naomi, but she's still young too. My, Josh. Matthew's not old. He's still.
My brain's fully developed, so.
Do what?
My brain is fully developed.
Oh, is it?
This is it, this is as good as it gets.
That's bad.
That's what he told me.
Oh, it is. This is good as it
He
gets.
said,
Well, you know.
"Steve,
It's good as it gets.
Well, let's see, Owen is 25. Is it? That's as good as it gets. Kate says it's fully developed, Janet, but that's all right. But the point is that what about those of us who are over 25? And I want you to raise your hand, and I want these young people to see it. Are there things in your life as an older person that you regret doing? I'm not talking about, little stuff. I'm talking about some pretty big stuff. Are there things in your life that you wish you could go back and change? Raise your hand. Young people, I want y'all to look around at all these people.
You see Peggy with that hand up?
Yeah. She ain't talking about that. That's one of the great things of her life. But the point is that there's going to be regrets in your youth. And that's what Solomon says. Remember God when you're young. Because there's some things in your life, when you get older, you're not going to be able to do. You can't fix them. Decisions we make as young people, we'll live with them the rest of our life. Heartaches, emotional, physical, whatever it may be. All right. Look at verse 1. There's something else. He says, remember God in your youth, Creator. Remember the Creator, days of youth. He says, before the difficult days come. What do you think he means? Before the difficult days come. There.
James 1, trials of life.
Okay, but the trial, you're right, but the trials of life come to everybody, right? Young people, old people. What would be another one you thinking, maybe, before the difficult days come? You got a young person here, and he's saying you don't have difficulties when you're young, but when you get older, you're gonna have difficulties. So what's the difficulties that the older person has compared to the younger? What do you think he's talking about? Huh?
Help,
Help?
health.
Help, yes. If you live, young people, there's gonna come times in your life when you get older, that there's things you ain't gonna do when you're older that you do now. It's not gonna happen. Because when you're born, you're gonna grow if the Lord lets you live to an old age. Are there things that these teenagers can do that I can't do? Yes. Yes. Because I'm older. A lot older. You get up, Jason knows, Gary knows, you get older in your life and they don't believe it now. Young people, I'm not saying they don't, but they have the mentality, because Matthew, their brain ain't working about it. They have the mentality that I'm going to be young my whole life. No, you're not. You're not going to be young your whole life. There's going to come a time when you're going to be old, you're going to be not decrepit, but you're going to be, that comes with it. There's going to come a time in your life that you can't do what you used to do. I use Gary a lot. And there was a guy yesterday at the flea market, and big old guy, big old arms, you know, and you can tell he lifted weights. And I said, this guy right here, you know, he used to lift weights 400 pounds or more, worked out, you know. I said, look at him now. In reality, that's what I said. I said, he can't lift 100 pounds. You know why? Because he's got old. He's got old. And if the Lord lets you young people live, you're going to get old. And I'm not saying you're going to be like Gary, as far as the difficulties that he has to go through, I have to go through. Look at Jason has to go through in his life, and others. You know, I look at Eddie, I look at Lee, I look at me, and I sure ain't gonna mention no women. But all of us, whether we're male or female, have difficulties that we go through because we're older. Gary, did you have any?
Yeah, I was talking to this young man yesterday that built up like that. And I said, you know, it's just like the things that I remember when the days when I was young. And Eddie can relate to this because Eddie's done a lot of things with his hands. And you can see around this building the things he's done. I've got a ton of knowledge. I built my first house. I used to tear down engines, change transmissions, work on my own stuff, my own plumbing, my own roofing. Nobody ever helped me do anything. I used to lift a ton of weight and stuff like that. And I looked at that young man and I said, behold, this is your tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is what you will be.
Yeah.
And all of that knowledge that you will retain, you'll retain the knowledge. But the physical things will go because you'll say, I can't even do those anymore. Nothing.
And that is so true. That is so true. I've heard Darryl talk about working at work. Darryl, what are you, 64?
Next month, 65.
And he talks about working in his job and things he could do years ago when he was young, hard. We still do tree work. I'm talking about, you go outside today when you leave and you look at that tree, that huge tree, that tree's 100 years old. And when I was, you know, young in my 30s and 40s, I can still do it, but that ain't no problem. Man, just pick up, work all day, yeah, and I still work all day, but it's a lot different, because you're old. You're getting older. And God meant your body to be that way. He meant for it to be that way. So, he says, let's go to the next one. He says, remember God in your youth, before the difficult days come, when you shall say, I have no pleasure in them. What do you think he means? Remember God in your youth, before the difficult days come, but when you shall say, I have no pleasure in them. What does he mean?
One is walking.
Okay.
I used to love to go to car shows, be gone all day. That's a goner.
It's a bummer now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because y'all went last week to a
Car show.
race or something, didn't you? Was it as fun then as it was 20 years ago?
No.
No. It's difficult when you get older. I'm gonna ask a question, and I want you older people to answer this, if you will. When he says, I have no pleasure in them, what do you think he means, I have no pleasure in them? Are there things in, some of you ladies, I'm gonna ask Peggy. Are there things in your life as an older woman that you used to take pleasure in that don't mean nothing to you anymore? Like Anna does. Dina, you're shaking your head. Any other ladies? Well, Dee Dee. Why? Why don't you, as an older person, enjoy life, ladies and men, like these young people do? Why? Why don't you enjoy it like you used to? I don't take no pleasure in that no more. Why? That was a question. Why don't you take pleasure in it? What? Huh? It's harder to do. It's more difficult. There's things in my life, I'll get to that. There's things in my life that I used to do, man, when I was, young and everything. I care nothing about it no more. Lizzie, is that right? I remember running around with the boys and doing things with the boys, and man, you could just run like the wind. You know what I enjoy? And I told Rod this yesterday. You know what I enjoy? The young people after the flea market yesterday, they do a whole lot of things. You know what I enjoy? Go home, sitting down and watching football till it's time to go to bed. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. Just bring me something to eat, baby. Fix me some supper. Let me eat. And I'm going to sit right back down in that chair. Now you think, these kids think, man, that's just boring. I don't go out and we're going to ride dirt bikes and mini bikes and, go-karts, and we're going to do all these. No, I mean, just leave me. I'll go ahead. Last night, and you can give you an example of this. Last night, I was watching the football game. Me, Lori, and Peggy were in the house, and Will was begging somebody to go outside and throw the football with him. Go ahead, son, I'll get with you later.
But who wins?
Yeah, but we all decided, and we didn't do, listen to me. We didn't do it because we wanted to. We felt guilty if we didn't go. That was the motivating factor. We didn't want to, we really did, but we loved Will, and we did it because.
Will only followed me out there.
Yeah, I finally got, I was the last one to go, by the way. Darryl, you have it, man.
I think when you get older, you start realizing, especially material things, that there's just no real significance in it, because it's simple. I remember I used to be in hot rods, drag racing, got out of school, couldn't wait to get the car ready. Cruise, go cruising, and doing stuff you shouldn't have done to begin with. Fortunately, I lived through it. But, paying all that attention to all the
Material things.
Yeah, material things when as you grow up, I still like, wash my car or do this or that. But you understand and see things different when you get older. When you get older, you're more concerned with, am I gonna be able to take care of myself? You know, through the rest of what's left of my life, than acquiring this quote unquote material things.
Darryl made a good point. Because what Darryl just said, when you get older, your thinking shifts. Your thinking shifts. It's not about, I wanna buy this house, I wanna buy this car, I wanna do this, I wanna do that, I wanna use my money for all these material things. I wanna ask some of you older, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but Dee Dee, can I ask you a question? It ain't nothing bad. Does materialism, is it as important to you now as it was in your 20s?
Your priorities change.
You're, okay, maybe that's a better way. How about you, Brendan? Is CME the same to you when you were 20?
Oh, no, I mean, like, I,
It's different. It's different. And wait till you get a little older, because when you get a little bit older, you understand, like Darryl does, because me and Darryl are close in age. You understand, when you get to a certain age, you're gonna die. You ain't got long. And you understand, you should prepare for death in your youth, but you don't have 50, 60 years left.
Mhm.
And your values change, not per se as a Christian, you always put God first, but you think about what's gonna happen when I'm gone. Do you think about that, Dee Dee? Brenda? Jason, do you think about that? Lizzie? It don't bother you? Okay, and that's okay. Do you think about that, Donna? What's gonna happen when I'm gone?
Life goes on.
It does. Did you know, and I'm gonna use a brother here, said Gene, Brother Gene, 95 when he died. And chances are, we ain't gonna live that long.
Right.
We ain't gonna, oh, I might live to be 100. Not, probably not. Probably not. So the oldest one in here is, Sister Ethel, and you're 80, can I tell you how old I am? 87, 80, 88. She said that proudly.
Mm-hmm.
88. My mom lived to be 90, okay? But most of us aren't gonna live that long. So we get to a certain age, we begin to realize we're not immortal. Young people, for the most part, think that they'll never go on that. They think that they can't be hurt. They can't be hurt. I remember, I'm gonna tell you this, and maybe I've told some of you, but I remember my son wanting to borrow my car. Y'all know I got that vet. And he was at Memorial Gardens, not Memorial Gardens, Memorial, Chicago Memorial Hospital. And he said, "Daddy, can I take it for a ride?" We just got out of church. I said, "Yeah, son, you can take it." He said, "I'm gonna take my cousin." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And he started at that red light and went down to where you go into Grove Road. Don't pet my toes yet. But you go where Grove Road is, and he had that thing at 140 miles an hour in fourth gear. And I found out, and I would tell you something else between me and Eric. I'm not gonna tell you, not me. And I said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I mean, I got upset. Well, what are you doing? You know, you hit a rock in the road, and then you're gone. Don't tell the police this, Caleb. You're done. But at that age, you think you're immortal. You think you're not gonna die, and this happens to everybody else. Needless to say, I took the keys in and he don't drive. He drove it one time before. And even after that, he's done again. You're not immortal. None of us are. So we need to prepare every day for this life to end. And that's what Solomon said. All right, anybody got something else? All right, I want to get on. We got a little bit left. If you look in verse 2, and he goes through about verse number 6, verse 5. What he does, metaphorically, he uses phrases and he uses phraseology to depict what it's like to get old. And he's remembering, telling the young people, remember God. Please listen, young people. He's simply telling young people in verse 1 and verse 1, please remember God. Remember me when you're young. Please remember me, because I'm fixing to tell you something in verse 2 through about verse 5 and 6. I'm going to tell you something that's going to rock your world, and you better listen. That's what he's saying in these next few verses. Because if you live long enough, God, through his wisdom, is telling every one of us this. If you live long enough, this is going to happen to you, and there's no exceptions. No exceptions to what he says. Listen to what God says to these young people. He says, verse 2, he says, remember him in the youth, while the sun, the light, the moon, and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain. In other words, he's describing young people. He says the sun, the moon, the stars, when you're young, you shine bright. Like the sun, the moon, the stars, you shine bright because you're young. You know, that's a description, God says, of being young. The sun, the moon, the stars, you're bright, and the clouds don't return after the rain. When the rain's done, the clouds are gone, the sun's bright, the moon's bright, the stars are bright. He says that's the way young people are. They're young, they got a lot of vigor and vitality, and they're strong, and you know, they can work 2 days in a row without sleep. You know, they can stay up all night and play video games. Right, baby? And they do all kind of stuff that older people, because he says, and listen to what he says, okay? Understand, God says, young people, one day these are going to be gone. One day these are going to be gone. I love watching videos and pictures. I like pictures. Yesterday, when we were eating supper, I got a picture. I guess Peggy put this on my nightstand. And on my nightstand, I got a picture of me when I was 6 months old. Believe it or not, I was 6 months old. I thought, man, forever, no.
I'm surprised they had cameras.
Watch it, man. And you know who is beside me? It's a dual picture. There's a picture of me, and there's a picture of somebody else. You know who it is? My mom. A picture of my mother. And it's a picture when she was about the same age as I was. But that ain't the way it is no more. My mom was gone. But I can see her through a picture. And I used to be that way, but I'm not that way anymore. That's the way we are when we're young, but that doesn't stay that way. Things change. We get old. And desires change in our life. Wants change in our life. What I want now, I don't want that when I was young. Do you, Seth? That what you want now, is it different than when you were 15 years old? Sure, it's different. because we're getting older, okay? So listen to what he says. In verse 3, he starts talking about getting old. He says, in the day, and in that phrase, in the day, is simply talking about when these difficulties come in your life. He says, when the keepers of the house tremble. You know what he means? When the keepers of the house, what is the keeper of the house? What keeps you upright?
Legs,
What keeps you upright? Jason?
legs, back.
Back, legs, your bone structure,
Strength.
your strength, okay? In the days when the keepers of the house tremble. Have you ever seen an old woman or an old man walking around? I've seen him, we saw a guy yesterday at the flea market, and he's walking around like this old guy, just barely making it. I said, Gary, and he's carrying something heavy. I said, Gary, go get that guy carrying that stuff. He said, man, he bought that, he can carry it himself. I said, man, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, man? But the keepers of the house, have you ever seen old people like that? They just bend over, and you think if you blow on them hard, they'll fall over. That's old age. They weren't that way all the time. They were like Will and Hannah and Micah and Lana. They were big and strong, and you know, you look at the before and the after picture, and you look at the before and you think, there is no way that is the same person that other person is at that age. You look at that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But it is. That's what age does. That's what life does. He says, the structure, and you tremble. Things aren't the way they used to be. You ever seen an older guy just shaking? He don't have Parkinson's. He just shakes. Okay? Now, you know what? You're studying that in school. It's not going to be that way. You're not going to be that way all your life because things deteriorate, things get old, and things don't work like they used to. Okay? Listen also what it says. The strong men bow down. That's what he's talking about. When the grinders cease, what do you think he means? Teeth. Your teeth grow, get old, and fall out. Ain't got no teeth. Okay? Now, modern technology today, you know, you can get dentures, you can get all this other stuff. But back then, they didn't have that. Okay? Your grinders cease because they're few, you know. Those who look through the windows grow dim. What does that mean? Eyes. The older you get, your vision gets worse. Again, technology helps us with that. Okay? But there's some things technology can't do with vision and teeth. Did you know before my mom died, she had the macular degeneration. That's what that is. You know, she was almost blind, and they couldn't do a thing about it. That comes with age. That comes with age. They look through the glass dimly. The windows, they look through the windows, grow dim, that's blind. When the doors are shut in the streets and the sound of grinding is low, what is that? The sound of grinding is low.
Hearing?
Your hearing. You get older, your hearing goes. And this is a good one. And if you don't live around old people, you don't know this. When they rise up at the sound of a bird, young people, you know what that means? They rise up at the sound of a bird. What does that mean, young people? You have any idea? What does that mean, man? The young people, what does it mean, Anna? You're an Anatomy. What does it mean? Okay, that's it. You get up early. Did you know and it doesn't necessarily mean old people. But I can't sleep like I used to.
We've eaten the chickens up.
Yeah. I get up early, cause I can't sleep. One reason, the more I lay in the bed, my back hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Jason? My back hurts. And, you know, I'm just up, I'm busy, I like to stay busy, okay? But that's what happens, you get young, you get old, you get up early. And Rod gets up early now, right, Rod? And Rod's not even 40. So when he gets 70, I can imagine he probably won't go to bed. I mean, if he gets up at 6 o'clock now, when he gets old, I can imagine him getting up at 3. But anyway, I think our time's up. We're gonna finish up, I promise, next week, and we'll get into 1 Corinthians. But I'd like to finish a few of these things. So we all just need to remember how life is. And I know we've maybe somewhat beat a dead horse, but it is so important that we keep that and we remember that. Okay? Thank y'all.